welcome back to my channel. This has probably been my most requested product in a really long time. Ever since Kindle and book sleeves, my most recommended product from comments, from viewers, everybody, people at markets, everybody has been asking me, do you have a Bible sleeve? And hopefully after this video, I can say, yes, I have a Bible sleeve. I have it maybe 2 different sizes. I have different options for how you want the closure method. I have so many ideas, and it got to the point where while I was trying to figure out what I want to film in this video, I was just so overwhelmed and I just need to start writing all my ideas down. But before we get to that, little backstory. So I do have the Kindle and the book sleeves. So the book sleeves are available in 3 different sizes. I have one size for the Kindle, I have one size that's for your regular paperbacks, and then I have one size that fits iPads and also your large like hardcover books, higher page count books, all those sorts of things. And I already have those all on the website, so you can shop from all of those. But the only closures on those is either no closure, which is usually people's preferred method, or you can add a zipper to it. The problem with this is it doesn't fit a lot of Bibles for that reason, because the size large is not thick enough. Like, it's not, would this make sense if I said it's not like 3D? It's like still flat. There's no like base to it. There's no like depth, I guess. And because of that, you're not able to fit a really thick book in there because it just doesn't fit. Duh. Okay. And so I've had people try the large book sleeve and it just doesn't work. And so I thought, you know what, let's finally just make one. Let's just add it to the shop since it's so highly requested. And it can't be much different than the book sleeve, which from my ideas, it's gonna be really different, but like from the general sewing, it shouldn't be that different. But I'm just excited to like play around with fabric, experiment, truly do something different than what I normally do. These videos always get me so excited because it's like stepping outside of my comfort zone, doing something different, thinking about what I'm working on, being able to create something out of nothing and show you guys everything that goes into it. So first things first, let's grab the mat, let's grab my little journal that we use to like plan out everything and get all of our ideas down onto paper. All right, I got out our little notebook here. I always use this to plan out all my limited edition collections, my new products, all those sorts of things. So let's just start a new page here. I'm just gonna call this Bible sleeves. So the first thing that I wanna figure out is, number one, there are different ways that people like make a sleeve, I guess. So it could either be a whole entire cover around your Bible, but it just goes around the like 2 hardcover ends of your Bible. So it doesn't go around any of the pages. Those are all still exposed, but it just goes around, kind of like when you were in like middle school and you had to get your hard book covered for some reason, and you like cut up an old paper bag and you like wrapped it around that. That's kind of what I'm talking about. And you would like design it and everything. I don't know if that's just me, but we had to do that. I don't know why. But that is the first thing. So that's called a cover. So you're just covering the outside of your Bible. Maybe there's like a little strap on there to secure it. Maybe there's some handles on it. You could get like some ribbon around it, so you have like little edges that are like very fun and lacy. But then the other option is a sleeve. And the sleeve is something that you slide your entire Bible into, or your book. You could also use this for a book. But you slide your entire book in there. And so all of your pages are covered. Everything goes in there. You could even fit like your pens in there. You could put your little journal in there. You could put your phone in there. I don't know. You could just put anything in there. And it acts as like a little bag almost for your book or your Bible. And that is what I did for my Kindle and book sleeves. So they're considered like a sleeve, and then you also have your covers, which is what I explained earlier. So the first part of this process is figuring out which one of those I want to do. And if not just one, maybe both. So first we have sleeve or cover. Then the second thing to figure out is the closure method. Then the second thing to figure out is whether I want it quilted or if I just want a fusible interfacing and no quilting lines on the outside, which is what I do for my Kindle and book sleeve. That's kind of why I'm bringing this up. So number 2 is either batting with quilting lines or just a fusible interfacing. And that fusible interfacing is just gonna add some extra thickness and durability to that sleeve or the cover. It just adds like a little bit of thickness, a little bit of substance to the sleeve so that it's not just fabric. Then the third thing that we need to figure out is the closure method, because we have a lot of different things here going on. So if we end up doing the sleeve, we could close it with either like a loop and a button. I'm gonna write these down. So loop and button would be the first one. The second way could be a snap. So like a little snap, what do you call that? Like a snap button closure, kind of like how I do on my AirPod cases. And that way would have a little, almost like a flap. So you have the sleeve, going like this. This is just, I hope that you can imagine this. So we have the sleeve, you know, these are your 2 layers and your book is in between these. So you have your 2 layers. This is where it like comes together, and then you have your opening over here. So you'd have a little flap that comes up and snaps to the top. And depending on how wide that flap is, we could kind of play around with that, but it could be like a little flap that just comes up, or it could be like a full width flap that comes up. I don't know, I feel like people would prefer a full width so that none of their things fall out of there. So we could also play around with that. So the snap would have a flap with it. And then our third method, which I've seen so much online, is a little bow ribbon closure. My only thing with this is not only is that very saturated in the market already, and so I feel like I wouldn't be able to do it any different than how a lot of people do it. The other thing is I'm only imagining like how dirty that little bow ribbon gets and how like messed up and just like gross it gets over time. And then when your sleeve is undone, it's like you got these huge long strings essentially. And nothing wrong with that. I just feel like for my sleeves, I want to try something different. So I'm just going to write it down because it is still an option. So we have the bow closure. But then other than that, I can't think of a lot of things besides a zipper. I just don't really want to do a zipper because I feel like all of my things have zippers, and you can get that on a Kindle or book sleeve. And then that would also be really hard with the bag being 3D. Having depth. I should say it has depth to it instead of saying it's 3D. But like then your zipper, I don't know, I'd have to really learn how to do that, which I could. I don't know. Anyways, so that's for our sleeve. And then for our cover, our closure methods is one, we could have a little strap. So it would be sewn onto the back piece of the cover, and it would like come up and over and like secure on the front so that it holds the whole thing together. I'm trying to think of what else has this type of closure. Kind of like a lot of journals have it. It's like sewn onto the back of here, and then you pull it over to the front so that it like holds this whole thing tight, and it always stays onto the back. It's not like it comes off or anything, but we could do that kind of a closure. So what do I even call that? Like I'm just gonna call it like a pole flap so that it's different than our other flap. So we have a pole flap. We could do a snap closure and a flap. We could do, honestly, we could do a bow with that one too. But other than those, I can't think. Oh, I remember. Wait, I already said that. Loop and button. Yeah. Does that one make sense? There's like a little loop that you can buy, like a really long loop, and then you can sew a little button into the other side. And then that loop, kind of like how I explained the strap, comes from the back over around the button. It's kind of like how you close one of those envelopes. You can like string the string around and around and around. Well, this one, you just kind of put the string on top over the button, and it holds the whole thing together, kind of like the flap. And out of these ideas, I really like the snap and flap. Not just because it rhymes, but the fact that it would be nice and clean. I feel like it would be relatively easy just because all you have to sew is that little flap and then add the snap to it. I feel like I could totally do that. Yeah, and even that, like these are gonna be kind of sewn the way that a tote bag is sewn. And so I'm thinking with that snap and flap, that flap will be sewn on when it's turned inside out. Yeah, I feel like I could totally do that. Okay, not jumping to conclusions. We're just gonna prefer the snap and flap. I like that one. Okay, what else do we need to decide? Oh, another thing is, do we want it to open from the top or do we want it to open from the side? So what I'm saying there is when you have your journal, Bible, book, whatever you got, do you want it to slide into the sleeve like this, or do you want it to slide into the sleeve like this? Does that make sense? Like, do you want this part to go in first, or do you want this part to go in first? So for my Kindle and book sleeves, it is down. So you slide it in like this. So I feel like for these ones, not only because it's really popular on the market for them to slide in like this, but also I feel like ease, and so that your book doesn't get ruined when you're sliding it in like this, especially because people keep their Bibles for a really long time. They don't want them ruined. I feel like sliding it like this, you know, like this part going in first would prevent it from getting like dog-eared or any kind of ruined. That's the only way that I could think of, but I just feel like it going side first would be a lot easier. And then it would also make it different from my Kindle and book sleeves as well. So let's plan to do it from the side. The side is gonna go in first. Okay, and I feel like that's about it. Oh, do we want different sizes? That was the other thing, is as I was shopping for some Bible sleeves, because I always like to see what's on the market. I like to see what people are doing, what people like. I was noticing some people do different sizes, which I never really considered. I thought about just making like one big size, but if you have just one big size, and somebody has a pretty small Bible, it's gonna be kind of loose in the sleeve. So we could play around with 2 different sizes or 3. I'm gonna look up all the different Bible measurements, you know, what's the range that we're working with. So different sizes. I'm just gonna write that down. All right, so here's our list that we're working with. Only 5 different things to choose from. So we should be able to figure all these out. I feel like I want to start with the sleeve. I want to start with a sleeve that has been quilted with batting. It has a snap and flap closure. It slides in the side first, and we're just going to start with 1 size, let's say. And this is going to get us a feel for like how to actually sew it, like all the moving parts basically of how it's getting sewn, how to actually make it, where I'm gonna add the label, everything like that. We can figure it all out. So now let's actually grab my mat and start cutting some fabric. Well, actually, wait, we should look up a size first. I'm just gonna look up Bible sizes or like Bible size guide. I feel like usually when you look up size guide, a lot of like PDFs and things come up with all different sizes. Oh, okay. Oh wow, this one has like 6 different sizes. Okay. Okay, as far as spine edge, looks like about 2 to 2.75 inches is pretty common. Height, anywhere between 7.5 to 10.75. Okay. And then width, 8 to 5. Okay. All right, let's see what else. Sometimes Reddit honestly has some good stuff, which I know some people don't like Reddit, but Reddit sometimes has like size guides for all different things, honestly. Like my Kindle and book sleeves, I did a lot of research on all the different Kindles. Same with my laptop sleeves. I also did iPads. That way it just helps to just Google everything. Sometimes you have to go to the actual website, like the Kindle website, to see what they're all sized as and make a whole Excel sheet. But this one, I feel like, so you have, I guess you have compact ones. So those are about the size of a Kindle, maybe a little bit larger. Then you have standard, about 8 to 5.5, and then, or 8 by 5.5, I should say. And then you have large, and then you have study Bibles. So I guess we could do a small, medium, and large. I guess how common are pocket Bibles? I guess those could just fit in the Kindle and book sleeves now that I think about it. I guess it says they're pretty common. This is like exactly how I felt while making the Kindle and book sleeves because I don't have a Kindle. I've never even held a Kindle before, so I'm like Googling everything about it, trying to see the sizes and everything. I'm just kind of lost here. Medium is 6 by 9 inch and large is 11 by 8 inch. Okay, based on some of the research that I've done, maybe we should do a size, well, technically on the market, it'd be size medium and size large, but I'm gonna call it size regular and size large because these compact and pocket Bibles would fit really well in the Kindle and book sleeves. And so I'm thinking we're gonna cater more towards the regular size Bibles and the really large Bibles. So I'm gonna write down some of these measurements on what I find here so that we can reference this for when we're cutting out fabric. And also for this size guide, I have, when I'm writing down regular, I kind of have an idea of the general width. So like the general width is about 1.5 inches difference. So like you have kind of the smaller version of the regular Bible and then you have a little bit larger version of the regular Bible. So I kind of have a range here. So we're gonna play around with maybe getting closer to that size large on the regular size and then same, wait, hang on, I don't think I'm making sense. So I have a range. So when I'm looking up all these different Bible sizes, there's ranges, okay? So let's say you have like 5 inches to 9 inches in height for your Bible. So then I'm gonna cut that in half. So we have like 5 to 7, 7 to 9. So then regular would be 5 to 7. And I'm gonna try and go towards 7 inches for that regular height size because I don't want people to buy the regular size and it's sized more towards the smaller end because then it won't fit as many Bibles. So I'm trying to go more towards the larger end because if you have a little bit of room, that's a lot better than not being able to fit it in at all. So that's what I'm also doing here is I'm writing down the range so that I understand what the range is, but maybe we can go towards the larger end of the range. So I got regular down, now let's do large. And this is truly the part that takes so long about these products is measuring because it's not like a wallet, it's not like you can just kind of make up a size and it probably fits a card, it probably fits the cash, or like a makeup bag. Makeup bag, you can really play around with, change every variable, but these you want it to fit a certain thing. So just like the Kindle and book sleeves, I really had to like do my measurements and figure out what the actual size is. Otherwise, you're gonna end up with a product that doesn't work because it doesn't fit anything. But it's all worth it in the end. Okay, now that we got that down, we can start cutting out some fabric, quilting it, and making our very first Bible sleeve. Now I'm having a bit of a hard time because the way that it works with like a 3D product, why do I keep on saying that? Like a thick, like something that has some depth to it, so like a tote bag, for example. The hard part about that is you're gonna be cutting out squares at the bottom so that you can like corner out the bottom so that you have that depth to it. And so then those extra squares that you want for the depth, you have to account for in your height and your width. So now I'm trying to like figure out not only those numbers, but then also the numbers for the pre-quilt and the post-quilt cutting, because you have a little bit of shrinkage after you quilt the product. It's just natural, like you're gonna have a little bit of squishing of your fabric, so you need to cut it a little bit wider than you want for your post-quilt size. So I'm trying to figure out both of those numbers, and I just keep on scribbling out something and like writing something new, but I'm just trying to get it perfect so that we don't have to like redo anything later on. But I think I got our regular one done. So now it's just time for the large one. All right, I think I finally got all of our measurements down. So let's grab our very first fabric that we want to make a Bible sleeve out of, which I think this fabric would just be adorable for a Bible sleeve. So I think I'm gonna do this one to see just kind of what we're working with. So first I'm gonna cut out our outer fabric that we need to quilt, and I'm gonna do size regular first. And I'm just now realizing that we actually need to cut out our liner fabric too. I didn't even think about that. So let's just do this white as our liner fabric. I just realized that I cut this completely wrong. This is the hardest part about a new product, is like learning what you're supposed to be doing, because your liner fabric is supposed to match your post quilting measurements, and I did not match that at all. But there's that. This is just extra now. Let me actually cut our outer fabric since I cut one part but not the other. Okay, so here's the outer fabric that we need to quilt. We'll put this on some batting later on, but now I want to focus on the little flap. So the whole idea here, our Bible is going to slide in this way after we quilt this, obviously, and I want the flap to come from the back over the top, and I want it to be a good, a good chunk of the side so that not so much of it is open. So I feel like having like 2 inches open on the side is fine, or like 1.5, maybe 2. No, actually maybe 1.5. Yep, I like that. So I'm gonna use our extra fabric here and cut that out. And then that means we're gonna have to sew from the very back edge all the way through the depth of the sleeve and then to the top. So let me see what our measurements are here. Okay, got that number worked out. And I accounted for not only the depth of the sleeve, since it's gonna be going up and around that edge, but also the flap over the top, so like the overlapping fabric, and plus being able to flip this little flap inside out, so that's like 0.25 inches. You just want to account for like all those little measurements, otherwise it'll be a lot smaller than you expect. So let me see how big our piece is, because I want to do one side as our outer fabric and then the other side as the liner fabric. Okay, we can go ahead and try that. And then I'm also going to round the corners when we actually sew this. So kind of like how I do for my AirPod cases, I'm just going to sew like a little bit of a curved line here. It won't be exact, and it won't be, exactly replicated throughout all of my different Bible sleeves, but it'll be about the same, curve. It'll just be about 1/2 inch to the edge to another 1/2 inch, just a little curve there. So now that we got our one slice for the outer, let's do another slice for the inner of that flap. All right, and then there's that one. And now let's put our fabric on some batting so that we can start quilting this, and hopefully this turns out good. This is exciting, honestly. Like, being able to do something new and just experiment is my favorite thing ever. And I just want these to be really high quality, very durable for people so that they can keep them literally forever and they won't go bad on them. I think we're gonna do a crosshatch quilt for these. So I'll show you what that looks like once we get over the machine. And then another thing that I thought for this little flap is we could add a little fusible fleece lining to this so that it stays nice and not bulky, but like it's got some, not heft, but you know the word I'm looking for. It's like, it has some, oh my gosh, I can't think of anything. Anyways, so let's experiment with that and cut out some of this fusible lining. And I'm just gonna match it exactly to what I cut those little slices out to. So it's almost just like the AirPod cases, and we'll be able to have a little fusible lining on there. And now that I think about it, I probably should have cut it about 0.25 inches smaller so we have somewhere to sew. And this, I'm telling you, it's just part of it. I'm just learning here. Because like I do for the AirPod cases, you gotta cut it a little bit smaller, otherwise it is so bulky. You can't flip it right side out and you can't add a top stitch to it. It is just a mess. So I like to cut it a little bit smaller. And now let's go iron this onto our little outer piece here. And just like any other fleece lining product that I do, so I have it on the back here. You put it feels kind of rough, but this is the glue side, so the little rough side. You put that face down onto the bad side of your fabric, and then you flip that over. And then I put this little sheet of paper that I get with my labels on top, and this is just personal preference. I've found that it helps so that my iron doesn't get so like nasty from all the glue on it. I don't know, sometimes when I do it without this little paper, it just gets to be really sticky on my iron, and I don't know why that is. And I used to put down towels on my ironing board. I don't do it anymore, but it used to just get so sticky. I don't know what was happening there, but I just use this little paper and go over it, you know, a couple times so that it stays nice, and then we can sew it. Okay, now we can head to the sewing machine and sew all of our items. First things first is quilting our fabric. I'm just gonna put this down and do some not random quilt lines. I'm gonna use my little laser light here, which is in my Amazon storefront if you're interested. And I'm gonna do, just trying to think. I'm gonna try and go for squares, but we'll see if that actually happens. Oh, I completely forgot to change my stitch. And then I just line that old line up with my laser and keep on going. All right, first piece done, next one. All right, second piece done. Now it's time for the little, what do we call this, strap thing, this little flap. So I did on here, let me show you. I did just go ahead and mark this. So I pinned both sides, I put good sides together, and I marked where I should leave my opening and where I should round my corners at. And that is just gonna help me this very first time around to understand how I should sew these. And I realized that this opening, we also won't have to close because that's gonna be the part that's going inside of the rim of the sleeve. So we won't even have to close that. This will just be a really easy sew around the edge type of thing. I'm actually gonna flip this over and do the other side because this is how I like to sew my AirPod cases. And so once I get to this corner, I'm just gonna start slowly rounding it. Okay, so there's that. And then we'll cut these corners off and flip it and do all that. But I'm first just gonna cut off these extra sides that we don't need on this. And this is just kind of like any other quilted product that I do. I just kind of chop off the edge. Let me double check our measurements here. Okay, we've got our little 2 slices. They're looking so cute. I'm so glad that I went with the crosshatch quilting. I think it just gives such a clean look to the bag. So, or not the bag, we're making a sleeve, but you get it. So I'm gonna set these aside. Let's do our little flap here. So first thing that I'm gonna do is cut off these rounded corners. These, I mean, you're just preventing bulk at this point. So I'm gonna cut off those. Also the little corners on these ends and this other rounded corner. And this feels so familiar because this is all that I do for AirPod cases. So this will just be nice and easy. And this is where you hope that you ironed on your interfacing good enough because otherwise it will completely come off, and I've had that happen before. But now I'm just gonna poke out all of our corners and our rounded edges. I feel like I'm talking like this is a tutorial. This is not a tutorial. I am literally just experimenting here, but see this hole? Let me turn some light on. So this hole we have at the top here, we actually don't even need to sew this. So usually at this point I would do a top stitching of my AirPod case because this is usually what it looks like, and I would sew up this hole. But in this case, we don't need to do that because this will be sandwiched in between these two so that it, like, you know, is held in there, and then this flap comes over. I feel like this is gonna be really cute, but I am gonna do a quick top stitching of this just so that it stays nice and flat. And I'm gonna also press it with the iron first so that we get all those wrinkles out. Okay, so I'm gonna set this aside because we need to top stitch that. And the next step for this, let me think here, what was the next step? We literally gotta make up the steps here. Yeah, so I guess it would just be adding my label, which, okay, here's the other thing. As far as the label, we have a couple different options. First option is to do my regular label, which I have right here. This is just a strip of them, but these are my regular labels. So they just say XOXO Charlie in like a little cursive font. And these I just cut out by like strips and then just chop off the individuals. So we could sew on one of these individual labels onto the corner somehow, maybe like at the bottom here, so that when it's, you know, it's gonna open from this side, so it's gonna be at the bottom, because that's usually what I do. But we could either do that, or we could sew it onto this little flap somehow, maybe like the top middle, or I wouldn't want to do the bottom since this is going into the little sandwich of the bag. Or we have another option. We could do, where's my labels? I only have a couple left, but from my scrunchie video, if you guys watch that, I did these little labels that are foldable. So this is what they look like, and as you can tell, there's a ton of margin there. And so these ones fold in half and they get sandwiched into the bag, and then you have XOXO Charlie sticking out. So this is another option, and I could sew it into, like, I honestly thought I could have done it into this, like at the top here, so that when you have your strap on there, it'd just be like this, and then it would just be really discreet and just tiny and be out of the way, and it wouldn't cause any issues, which I kind of feel like I should have done that. Man. Or even on this side here, like on the large flap, because that would be going over the bag. It's so hard to imagine because this would be like flipped around, and oh my gosh, I can't decide. Or I guess the other option is to sew it like that into the actual bag, which I'm not a huge fan of because there's not a lot of margin on this. So I would have to do it into this somehow, this little flap. I feel like I should have done that. You know what? I'll do our individual label for this size, and then I'm also gonna do like a draft of the size large. So for the size large, we can experiment with doing this little flap one, because I think I like this flap one a lot more for this product than this one. I don't know, there's just not a really good spot for this label, because we have to take into account that our flap is gonna come over the top here. So we don't want to put it down here. We probably want it on this side. But then this side is going to be squared out. So I have to put it in a little bit. Man, this is hard. I don't know. We could put it like on the end here. No, I don't like that. I don't want it to be big and like tacky looking and like be super branded, because that's just not my style. I don't really like that. So I'm gonna go ahead and measure out how far we need to square off these corners, because we still need to like cut off some corners and make it into that 3D bag that I was talking about. And so I'm gonna measure out how far we need to go in, and then I'll place down our label a little bit further in so that it doesn't get chopped up by the corner. All right, I'm just gonna put it here. I think that should be good. I just don't really like the look of that. I don't know. You know what? We're just gonna try it for today. And whenever I have a label that's this far in from the edge, I always just tape it so that it stays the same once I bring it over to the machine. And then this side, we won't have anything to do with. And then our liners, I guess we can sew. I'm gonna press these really quick, but these we're gonna sew good side to good side, just kind of like how we do liners. Well, I guess we're gonna cut out the squares too. Yeah, I'll do that. Okay, I'm gonna press it and then we'll cut out squares. And honestly, this is where having made a tote bag before comes in real handy, because this is just kind of second nature for me, like how to make the liner and then how to make the outer and quilt it and attach all of it. It's just kind of like making a tote bag. So these aren't gonna line up perfect, but I'm gonna cut out the squares for these. Actually, let me pin this first. So this is gonna be our edge, so we won't wanna sew that. That's kind of like, think of like the opening of a tote bag, that's where that's gonna be. But then the rest of this we can sew up. So I'm gonna cut the corners now so that we can create that boxy shape. All right, and then there's our little bitty liner. It's just so cute. All right, so I'm gonna throw this over at the machine too, because we need to do that. We're gonna top stitch our flap. This we don't need to do anything with yet, so let's go ahead and sew. I'm honestly just hoping that this all turns out good at this point, but first I'm gonna do a top stitch on that flap, just all the way around the edge, okay? And then we'll add the snaps after this step. Then next is the liner, and this I'm gonna need to keep a hole in. I'm trying to think. It's either we keep a hole in the liner or we keep a hole in the rim when we attach the outer and the liner fabric. I'm just trying to think which one would be easier. Probably the liner, just because I'm familiar with that. I'm gonna do a pretty big hole because we're gonna have a lot of bulk on this. All right, and then I'm gonna box out these corners, maybe. These are so tiny, a lot smaller than I'm used to working with. Okay, and the other side. I feel like working with this small of fabric is honestly easier than some of the bigger ones, because the bigger ones, it's like there's so much to mess up. You know, if one measurement isn't right, it's like completely screwed up. Does that make sense? I don't know. These ones, it's like you only got an inch to work with. All right, so there's our little liner. You can kind of see the 3D idea of the bag. That makes sense. And hopefully a Bible fits in there. I guess we'll see. Next is our label. This one I have figured out. I like a certain stitch length for. It's like 2.75. That's how I get it to work out nicely with the label. And if you also sew on your labels, you get how frustrating it can be to sew them on and get the perfect stitch length. Sometimes it just does not work out. Like this one is just short. All right, trim that off and our label is good. So now let's make the boxy outer fabric. I'm just gonna take this over here. Well, I guess I gotta cut it. This one will be pretty easy. It's just the same that we did for the liner, but just for the outer fabric. And I'm gonna remember where my label is, hopefully. So then this is the side that I need to box out since I saved this little corner. So our opening will be towards me. Honestly, we're almost there. Like this is gone pretty quick. So I'm gonna box out these corners, double check our label. Yes, it's right there. All right, and then let's sew all this down. I'm actually thinking about it now. Do I need to add my snaps to this first? No, I don't think so, because we need to measure exactly where the snaps go after we've sewn everything together. Yeah, okay, let's do this first. I just don't want to mess it up. Okay, so then there's our outer fabric. This one I'm gonna flip right side out, just like we do with the tote bag, and hopefully our label is still there. Oh my goodness, it's really close to the edge. Okay, yeah, so I'll definitely learn from that. It is just so close to the edge. It's almost sewn into the bag, but you know, going forward, I think we'll do that little loop anyways, so this will be a good experiment bag. Okay, now we need to add the snaps to our outer flap here. And I say snaps because I think I'm gonna do 2 snaps on here. So one on like each end, just so that it holds the entire flap down instead of just like, you know, kind of being loose and just only having one. So I'm gonna find the center here and then work my way out. Okay, maybe we could go here. And I want it to be pretty close to the edge, but I don't want it to be too close either. So I'm gonna grab my snaps and I'm gonna see what it would look like right here. I'd say like 1/2 inch in looks good. Maybe 0.75, nah, 1/2 inch, yep. So I think just like that, it'd be right on the edge there, and same with on this other side. Okay, so we have our middle, and we're gonna go 1, 2, okay. Let me write this down. I feel like if I don't write things down as I go, I just completely forget. All right, now let's actually mark this out. So right there, and 1, 2, right there. And this, once again, is just so familiar because I do this all the time with AirPod cases. So I'm gonna mark the holes and just start the hole with this little, I don't even know what this is called, but it just came with a little set. And then this one is gonna be, what is this? This is gonna be the male end. So I'm gonna put the button on the outside and then put the male end on the other side. And same with at the top. And for this, I actually thought about doing different colored buttons, which I might, because these might just be, you know, like I make a couple and then list them, because I really want them to be unique and for people to use them for a really long time. So I thought about just making them as, instead of made to order, just do some exclusive ones. I'm gonna use my little new contraption here to press our little buttons. Perfect. And I got this thing because the old one that I had hurts my hands so bad after doing it for so long. So I just got this. There we go. So now we have one button on this side, one on this side, and on the other side is both the male ends of those buttons, because we're gonna put the female end on the actual Bible sleeve. Okay, now we can go ahead and assemble this whole thing. I'm gonna put our good side in, and then here's where I'm gonna add our flap, but I need to figure out, so this is the top, I think, because I need to put it on the back side, or maybe this side's the top. Yes, this side's the top, so I need to put it on this end. I need to put it inside, okay, like this. Maybe. And see, this is why we didn't need to close that hole, because it's just going to be sticking out anyways. And I'm just going to even this out and then pin it, and then we'll sew around this top rim. We'll pretty much be there. Okay, got it all pinned somehow. I don't even know how. Now I'm going to try and fit it under this machine and go all the way around the edge. All right, now it's the moment of truth. I'm going to flip this right side out, and let's hope that our little flap is still in there and looks good. I feel like I've just been winging this whole time, and now it's actually like almost done. All right, there's our little flap. So it'd come up. I'm already trying it out. Okay, I think this would actually work. All right, let's sew up the hole in this liner, and then we'll do a top rim, and then we'll add our little button closures on the outside. And these holes I've actually found, if I just pull them and then make a really tiny stitch, like 2, goes a lot easier. Oh my gosh, we're almost there. I'm so excited. I feel like I said, I've just been like kind of winging this, and now it's almost done. It's kind of crazy. Just gonna make sure that that liner fits in the bag nice. Press all those corners. Oh my gosh. Can you see the vision? This is the vision here, okay? I want it to be able to close, look nice, and be all secure, and the flap looks really big. You know what, that's okay, because we need some depth there. All right, let's just keep on going. I keep on getting distracted by how it looks. This one I'm gonna go for a rim that doesn't have the liner. So usually with my tote bags, I bring up the liner just like this, and I have a little bit of white on the outside. But for this one, I'm gonna do kind of how I did my upcycled quilt bags, sorry. And I'm gonna do no rim. So it's gonna be just the outer fabric and then the liner fabric, and they're gonna meet exact at the top. And I'm just gonna pin it that way so that it doesn't try and roll up on me while I'm sewing it, because that always happens. And with the flap, I'm gonna have it out, kind of like how you'd have a strap. I just don't know how to pin this though. Maybe I could roll my flap and then pin. I just want to be able to fit one pin. You know what? I'll just use an actual pin right there. Okay. I try and avoid regular pins as often as possible. Oh, speaking of which, not avoiding pins, but talking about pins, I went to my P.O. box the other day. Someone had sent me this little tray for my pins, which is perfect. And this little top part comes out, and it actually has like a razor edge in there that you can cut your thread with. And so you can take this off. Hopefully my pins don't fly out. Yeah, they're probably gonna. But this comes out and then it sticks up in this little ledge here, and it like sticks out like this, and you can cut your thread on it. But I just use it to hold my little pins over by my sewing machine, since my actual pin cushion is over usually where my mat is, where I'm pinning everything. And so I can like set them here on this little magnetic thing instead of just on my table and rolling around and stepping on them. It gets to be a real issue. So thank you. If you ever send me things, I always get them and I always appreciate them. Like today I opened some more fabric from someone, and I'm gonna do a full video on all of that. And like I got some scissors, I got some adhesive spray, like all sorts of things. You guys are just spoiling me. It's like, I feel like I don't deserve it, but it is amazing to be able to open a package of just like random little goodies. Anyways, let's go ahead and sew this rim so that we can add our pins. This is gonna be so cute, okay? I'm excited. This might be the harder part as well, because trying to fit this all the way on here without sewing the other end is gonna be a little bit tricky. But I'm gonna start from the back. I always like to start from the back of the project so that you don't see that start and end stitch. I'm just gonna slowly work my way all the way around and pray that my bobbin doesn't run out, because that always happens when I'm doing this. And this, I'm actually gonna do a tiny seam allowance, because usually my tote bags, I do a pretty big seam allowance, and same with my Kindle and book sleeves. But for this, I want it to be tiny so that we can add our snaps later on and they won't be in the way of that top stitch. And right now I have a stitch length of 2, so we're going really tiny here. I just want it to look really small and very discreet. All right, here's our pin. Try and not run that out. See, look, I could just put it over here on my little magnetic thing. It's perfect. And now these threads, whenever I get to this end, let me zoom you in. So whenever I come to my end here, this is our end of our stitch. This was my very first thread that it started out as, and I'm gonna snip that, because if I don't snip that from both sides, that thread becomes the biggest pain, because it gets threaded in between all of your last stitches that you do when you go back and forth and back and forth. And then it's kind of lost, and then you can't get it, and then you got a big jumble of mess. So I always do that with my tote bags, my Kindle and book sleeves, all things like that. And it took me so long to figure that out. I don't know why, but always snip those first. It makes it a lot easier. So I'm gonna cut off our extra threads here, just like that. Make sure we don't have any others hanging around. And here is our almost done very first Bible sleeve. As you can tell, it's got that 3D look to it. It has depth. I should just say it has depth to it. This is about a 2-inch depth, and I feel like that should be perfect for our books and Bibles that we're gonna be putting in here. And the whole idea of our flap is that when we got a book in here, so it goes this way, this flap is gonna come around and snap to the front end of this. So now we just need to add our little front snaps onto here. And I'm probably gonna put a book in here when we do that, so we can figure out exactly, you know, because we don't wanna put it like this, flatten it out and then do it, because once you add something in there, they aren't gonna exactly reach each other. So this is very similar to how I made my AirPod cases, and you need the actual product in there so you know exactly how deep it's gonna be. And I want this fully at like 2 inches. So I'm gonna find the biggest book that I have. Not the biggest, but like the biggest book for this sleeve so that it's like the maximum depth that it could be. And so that it snaps very nicely and always works for any book that fits in here. So let's go find a book. Okay, here's a couple books to start out with. First one is 1984. This is gonna be way, way, way too small. Next, let's try Mockingjay. It's still a little bit too small. This book, still too small. Okay, what? This is a lot bigger than I thought. Let's try this one. Nope. Okay, let me find one even bigger. All right, this might be too big, but let's try this one. Actually, this might be the perfect like maximum size. Oh my gosh. Whoa, okay. That is perfect. So here's how it looks in the little sleeve. It is like the perfect width, the perfect depth, everything. It fits great in there. It's like the ultimate book for this sleeve. So then this, we're gonna figure out a way to have this come over and close, you know, just right there so that anytime that you put a book in here, it will fit no matter what. And I wish that this was a little bit taller. Maybe we could kind of, you know, make it go all the way to the top so we can figure out exactly how these buttons should be. So like just right there so that it closes nice and all your pages are protected. This is gonna be so cute. I feel like I might even have it a little bit closer to the edge than how it's, you know, supposed to be, just so that if somebody's book is just slightly bigger, it still fits. So I'm gonna pull this book all the way to the edge and then figure out exactly where our buttons go. And then I'm gonna mark this out and then we'll put our pins on the outside here. So going right here, I'm just gonna pull this. And I feel like this doesn't have to be super tight. I feel like I'd almost rather have it a little bit looser, just so that the fabric isn't always being so pulled. So maybe there, I don't know, maybe here. I just wanna make sure if this is flat, the back side is still flat. It's not like being pulled up or anything, but I also don't want it too loose. Let's go a little bit more. There, I feel like, oh my gosh, I can't decide. And I also want it to be even. I feel like right there is perfect. Okay, let's do right here. So I'm gonna mark this out just right under these pins. Just gonna put a little black dot right there. Okay, so here's our first dot, here's our second dot. Now let's put some pins right there. So I'm gonna poke the hole first. And actually, you know what? Let me measure this first. So I'm just gonna take the book out and we'll go from the edges here, since it's always gonna be at this step that we measure these holes. So if we completely do it flat, these won't even be the same measurements for each bag. It's like I'm gonna have to do this every single time because this flap is not exactly gonna be in the same spot. And then, so that's already one variable that'll be slightly different. And then these holes may be slightly different. So then that makes these ones even more different. Does that make sense? And with something like this, you want it to line up perfectly every single time. So I think I'm gonna have to do this with every single bag no matter what, so I'm not gonna worry about measuring that. And now I'm gonna put the blank side on the inside and the female side on the outside for both ends. I feel like this would be so cute with a pink button or like blue buttons or something. Just add something more to the bag. But maybe I'll play around with that a little bit later. This is just, once again, our test. I'm gonna use our little machine here. All right, and there we go. Oh wait, that one didn't even squish. I feel like this step might just be easier with the handheld one anyways, so we'll just do that. And I'll just double check this one. Okay, and there we go. Now let's try it with our book inside. Fits so nice. And now with the little buttons, just snap this one and the other. And look at that, you have your own little book cover. Look at how cute this is. And you got little buttons on the sides so you can close it, open it up. You just pull both the snaps and you can get into your book. Slides in and out really easily, obviously, if it, you know, isn't the largest size possible for the sleeve, but this one is very snug for sure. And I'm so glad that it can also be used as just for regular books or for Bibles. And these little snaps are just so easy to use. Just snap it right on and you're good to go. Your pages will be nice and covered so that they don't get so dirty or anything. This is perfect. I love that I quilted it. The only thing, I have two things that I want to change on my next sleeve. So number one is the height right here is a little bit different than at the bottom. So that is because of where I put the flap, which I did not measure. I should have, but I just eyeballed it. So that's number one, we need to measure that. So we need like 1.5 inches. Well, actually, yeah, 1.5 inches because that's what I measured from the edge. Yeah, duh, I should have measured that. Okay, so we'll do 1.5 inches from the edge. That's where we're gonna line it up before we sew that outer rim. So that's our number one thing. And then that means we can actually line up our snaps the exact same every single time. And we won't always have to like fit a book in it and use somebody's sleeve before they actually get it. That's just kind of weird. So we'll be able to measure those and it'll make it a lot quicker as well. Number two is this very, very sad label. This label is just not having it. It is cute by itself, but on here it looks very, very sad. It's almost in the crease of the side in the corner. If I wanted to do this, I would have to move it a little bit in more, but I don't think I want to do this label. I don't really like it. I don't know, unless I do it on the side here. I just don't really like it, honestly. And when the book completely fills out the corner, it like curves and it looks weird and I don't know. So my other thought, hear me out on this. Okay, now that I'm thinking about it, I don't know if that's possible. Okay, so my idea was I was gonna put it on the edge here and make it line up with the middle. But depending on how wide your book is, the middle is gonna be different. You know what I mean? Like we would have to put it like 2/3 of the way down instead of in the middle, because then it won't be lined up with the middle of the actual sleeve. But I think that that little loop here would be cute. It would be a good spot for it because it'd be out of the way when it looks super branded and like in your face. I was also thinking we could put it on this edge. I just don't really know if I'm a fan of that. I don't know. Just trying to think of where else we could put it. We could put it in this little crease here. I just don't really like that either. You know what? Why don't I measure the middle of this? Since this book is completely filling out the width of the sleeve, why don't I measure this and then we can measure exactly how wide just this area is, and then we can find the center of that. Sew it into here when we're actually sewing the top stitch. Well, actually it'd be the step before that, but when we're sewing the actual flap, we can add the label right there. And we'll have to remember what side we're working with, so we'll want the side that is to the right clockwise of where our buttons go. But overall, what a great first test. I feel like my stuff never turns out this well and like usable on my very first try, so this is a success in my eyes. I still feel like somebody would really enjoy this. I might gift it to someone, and I really do feel like it is a great Bible sleeve because it protects it on one side, it closes it, it doesn't like you can fully pull from this end and it's not coming out. And those snaps are gonna hold on there. I like that there's two, and we're gonna put the label on a different area, so that'll be a lot better. But here, actually, if I pull this all the way to the end, you can see how it looks when it's completely up to the edge. It does really fill it out, and that flap holds really nice. And this edge is still on the edge, which is what I was looking for when I was pinning this, because I didn't want this edge to like come in and this side of the fabric be like accounting for that extra pull. I wanted it to stay exactly where it's at, which is exactly what it's doing. So that is a win. Let's go ahead and make the size even larger than this, because this is gonna be the regular size. This will be the regular size for the Bible sleeves. So let's make size large. Let's adjust number one, the flap where we measure it, and number two, the flap having the label on it. I'm so excited though. This is beautiful. Like, this is just gorgeous. I love it. I just finished up our size large, and here's how it turned out. This one, I don't know what's throwing me off about this one. I think maybe it's the quilting lines that I did, how I did them like going this way technically, because the book sleeve goes this way. So I thought that it would be like up and down, but now it kind of makes it look like it opens this way. You know what I mean? Like this is the top. I don't know. Anyways, so I ended up doing 3 buttons on the top here. This way you can probably see it easier, but I did 3 buttons since it's so wide that I wanted 3 to hold it really secure. And I ended up going with a little label on the top there, and I ended up doing it both sided. And so that's what really took so long about this, was designing that label, printing it, ironing it, cutting it out, and then sewing it onto there. But I love how it turned out. I love how small it is, that it's not so like in your face what brand it is. But if you needed to know what brand it is, it's just right there. Then we have the 3 pockets on the front where those buttons attach to each other. So there's one right there, one in the middle, and one on the other end. This one is very deep. And in fact, the only Bible that we have is too small to fully fit this entire thing. And this Bible is considered like a larger one, I'm pretty sure. And there is still plenty room for other items. Like I even put my journal in here so I could fit my little sewing journal just right in there. Fits great. And it still closes. Let me close it up. And there's still just plenty of room. So this is how it looks all closed up. It is just adorable though. I love the fabric, love that it's little patchwork. I just don't know what to think. Like, is this too big for the average large Bible? Which leads me to my next idea. I think we need to go to Barnes & Noble and we need to look at all the different Bible sizes and see if this is too large, or like if this one's too small. Like we need to figure out if these are actually good, usable dimensions for the average Bible in a store. Because if they're not, I don't want to make a whole bunch and then they like don't fit anybody's Bibles or books. But overall, I love the label. Although, I don't know why, but I printed out an entire sheet's worth of labels and they all look like this. They are all upside down, which means you can only read it from this way. I don't know what happened there. I need to fix that. But then from this way, it is readable. You know, it's on the top. But I just need to fix that. I just can't believe how well everything fits in here. Like you could almost just use this as a to-go bag for like your journal, your books, your phone. I mean, like you could fit anything in here. The snaps also are very durable. I haven't had them break on me at all. I use them for the AirPod cases too, and I use them for that reason because they're really durable. I just feel like I like this one because I'm able to see the entire shape with the book inside of it, and it's just, I don't know, it's just adorable. I love it. I love how it fits, and I just want to make sure that this one ends up turning out the same because I don't want to offer a Bible sleeve that doesn't fit someone's Bible, but I also don't want it to be too large for everybody else's Bibles. So I'm just like struggling. I'm trying to figure out, like, do I add another size that's in between these two? Because technically looking at them, I really could. Like they're close, but I could definitely fit another size. I'm just trying to think. I don't know. Regardless, these are taking so long to make. Like these are one of my most time consuming projects, not only because they're like a tote bag, but they're also like an AirPod case. And so I have to combine all of those different steps together, apart from the straps. I don't have the straps like the tote bag, but they are taking me a very, very long time to make. So that's kind of why I'm thinking I'm probably gonna do these, like I'm gonna bulk sew them, add them to the website, and then once they sell out, they're gone. I just need to make another batch. And that'll also give me a chance to experiment with different colored buttons and maybe do like some different things with them, like add some ruffles around this edge. I don't know. I just want to get like fun with it. I don't want to do the same thing over and over and over. And I just want to be able to experiment with them. So anyways, let's go ahead and head to Barnes & Noble. I'm going to bring both of these with us and we can test out not only Bibles, but also books. And we can see how they work out, what fits in them. Yeah, all the things. Okay, let's go. This will be like our final step in the process of making these. I'm so excited. Okay, I finally found some. So I picked out the largest that I could find. I picked out a compact one and I picked out a regular medium-sized one. And I'm not going based off like what they're about, what religion, but I just want to see the size. So first off, for the compact, I know this will fit in our small size and it fits really, really well. Like there's a lot of extra room in there. So that works out great. People will be able to fit a compact, and it looks like it already has a little case of its own, so you could still put it in there with its case on. Then going up in size, this one looks like large print, personal size Bible. This was just like the average size that I could find. And this one, let's see. So this one actually fits perfect in there as well. And you can close it. Let's try it. You can close it up here and it fits actually perfect. So like your average medium size Bible fits perfect in there, even like with all of the packaging and everything on it. But yeah, it looks like this one doesn't have a case, so it just fits great. And this is what I imagine like a normal size book and Bible. That's perfect because that's kind of what I was going for this size, so that's good. Then I found the largest one that I could find over on that shelf. So this is it. It is huge, and yeah, it doesn't fit in that smaller one. So let's try our size large. Fits
perfect. It actually fits the same as the Bible that I had at home, so there's a little bit of extra room in there. And with it snapped shut, there's still a whole ton of extra room, so maybe we'll make this just a tiny bit smaller, because if this was the largest one that I could find over there, I feel like there's no point in having a larger Bible case if there's no Bible to like fully fit it. I'm thinking about this one girl who came to my market, and her Bible was literally like, I want to say almost like 3-4 inches wide. It was huge. And she had so many notes in it, and none of my stuff fit. Even like the laptop sleeves, it wouldn't fit. So I'm just thinking for cases like that, maybe I could do custom orders. But as far as this case, I think we could go like a 1/2 inch smaller on all of our dimensions. Maybe keep the width the same. I'm not sure. At least this gives us a good understanding of what size we're looking at and what products are on the market. And I think this size large is definitely too big. Maybe this will be the size that I do for custom orders if people need an even larger one, but I think we need to decrease some of our measurements by like 1/2 inch or 1 inch. All right, I'm back home, and to be honest, I don't think I've had this much struggle with developing a product. It is now 3:40. This has taken me all day. But the more research that I do, I just went shopping for Bibles for like an hour just to see all the different dimensions of them. And the more that I'm shopping for them, the more that I'm realizing how common compact Bibles are. So I'm thinking maybe we should do another 3rd sleeve that fits compact Bibles. And I also decided, let's go ahead and keep size large and size regular the exact same. So we can actually call it size large and size medium because we'll have size small now. I'm gonna keep those the same because size large I thought was too big, but I'm thinking there's so many other Bibles out there that were not in the little Barnes & Noble section. So I want like an extra large size just in case somebody has a really large Bible, or they want to fit their iPad in there, they want to fit their Kindle in there, their journal, anything that they want to fit in there, they can just add. I just want to keep that as an option for people, but I have decided that I want to make a size small. So I'm going to go ahead and develop that, you know, kind of see what size we need. And based on all the research that I've done, it's just like the same amount that I went up for size large from size medium, I'm gonna go the same exact measurements down, like downsize it the exact same that I upsized it in order to make size small. So I'm gonna go ahead and make one of those. Then I'm going to make a couple for a listing. It's hard because I really wanted these as made to order, but they're taking so long and they take so many different steps and different materials that I think it would be really hard to do made to order for these. So for that reason, I think I'm gonna bulk prep a whole bunch of them so that we can go in and take photos and list them tomorrow, especially because this video is supposed to be coming out in like 2 days. So I don't have very much time, and so I just want to get this size small developed because I feel like if I don't develop a size small, people will be like, well, I have a size small, like what do I do? Does it just take up only half the room in the size medium? Like I want to have something available for everybody. So I'm going to make a size small, which shouldn't be too hard now that I've done 2 of them. And then I'll go ahead and cut out all of our different fabrics that we're going to use and sew a whole bunch of these for launch. It is now the next morning, and I finished all of our book sleeves and Bible sleeves last night, and I can't tell you just how frustrating it was and how tired I am. I was like this close to like a rage quit moment last night. I'll insert the video, but I literally sewed through one of my pins. It was like the little beaded tip of like a real pin, not like a clip. And I actually put a stitch through that pin. I don't know how, but my needle didn't break. And I was like, if that's not a sign, I don't know what is. Just keep on going. Like,
just finish them all tonight. And so I was down there until about midnight, I think it was. I didn't get to bed till like 12:30 or something. So I'm a little bit tired, but I'm so happy that they're done. I am gonna be so honest with you. I don't think that these are gonna stay on the shop. A couple reasons for that. Number one, I posted a TikTok and I asked your guys' opinion about the flap. So I had a lot of comments saying we love the flap, but we want it to be a little bit longer so that it covers the entire bag. So I'm thinking like a full-on flap, you know what I'm talking about? And it like goes all the way even past the edge so that nothing falls out. And then more than that, this part is gonna have to be like flush with the top so that nothing falls out. So that was the number one thing. Number two was people want straps. And I am surprised that this didn't keep me up last night because I can't think of a way to put a strap on this without it being inconvenient. Either number one, we put a strap from this corner to this corner. That wouldn't work with the flap. Number two, we could do like a tote bag strap, but that also wouldn't work with the flap because we have it on this side. And so then when you flip it over, you don't have another side for the strap. You know, like the flap would have to be going over the strap somehow. You could have the strap from this side, but then that means that you somehow have to like secure it onto this rim and this corner. So it has to be a certain width, and then this side also wouldn't be open because of the flap. And then more than that, I don't want people's things falling out of the bottom, so I don't want them to hold it from this side. So needless to say, this has been the most insane product development process. I've never had a product give me so much trouble, like truly so much trouble. And maybe it was just the fact that I stayed up till midnight doing them, but it was the fact that there are so many components to these that are in my other products that it's like, it feels like I'm making 5 products in one. Like I'm making an AirPod case and I'm making a tote bag and I'm making a wallet, and like it has so many parts and it doesn't look like it. Like if I was just looking at this and I didn't make it, I'd be like, that looks so easy to make. But going down all the parts and the processes of making this is insane. It's like, is more than a tote bag. It is crazy. So for that reason, these will probably be a limited edition launch. They will be on the shop for a limited time, but there will be one of each size of each color. So you can feel free to grab one. They're on the website now. This size small will fit your Kindles. They'll fit your compact Bibles, your really, really tiny books, maybe a little notepad, but beyond that, they won't fit much more than that. They could also be a cute little travel case in your purse. So we have 4 of those. We have the vintage pink. We also have the vintage blue. Then we have the most popular fabric, the colorful picnic. And then we also have the bright floral. And these are the 4 colors in all sizes. So then our size medium here, this one has the 2 snaps. Y'all saw these all day yesterday. These will fit your regular paperbacks, your regular sized Bibles. And if you're curious, I will have all of this in the description of the listing so that you know exactly which size you need for your specific Bible or book. So again, then we have all those different colors. And then moving up to our size large, we have the 3 snaps on each side, and these will fit your very large Bibles. You could also put your smaller Bibles in here with like some journals and some pens and other things that just fit in there nice. I am assuming that they also fit an iPad as well. Yeah, actually from the dimensions they should, because I did them pretty big from what I remember. So they should fit like iPads, journals, large Bibles, large books, and once again in all 4 sizes or all 4 colors. But if this does not show just how much work goes into like creating a new product and testing it out and like making sure that it works for what I want to put in them, I don't know what does. The AirPods case video that I made is also very similar to this because you have a specific item that you want to fit in that product. And if it doesn't fit every single time, you're gonna have a lot of people that are like, hey, it doesn't fit, like why doesn't it fit? Or like if it was too roomy, people are gonna be like, it's too big, like it's falling out. You want it to be perfect every single time. So that's partially why these just require so much labor and time and attention to detail. But going forward, I honestly think my plan is to do something very similar to how I do my book sleeves right now, except I'm gonna do corners like these for those, since they are currently flat. They don't have any corner to the bottom of them, which is partially why Bibles don't fit very well in them, or like really thick books. So I think I'm gonna make a size up from size large, and I'm gonna corner the bottom, and then those will be able to fit your Bibles, your really big hardcover books, and I'll probably have them as a separate listing from the Kindle and book sleeves, just so that people understand that they're different things. And then from there, we can experiment with different closures. I'm just like really intimidated now by these little flaps. Remember at the beginning when I was like, oh, a little flap and snap, that's so cute, let's just do that, it'll be so easy. It was not easy. I did it, but like at what cost? So I really want to play around next time with maybe some loops and some buttons, because that sounds a lot easier than this. But knowing me, you know, I'm like, oh, it sounds so easy. It's probably not. But if you have any recommendations, feel free to leave them in the comments. I always love hearing from you guys, especially on things like this where I get kind of stuck. And especially with the TikTok, that really helped me kind of understand where you guys' heads are at with how you want to use these products. Because when I was developing these, I'm like, I mean, I don't need a strap on these. These are gonna go in people's bags, but maybe people do just wanna carry this on their own. I don't know, but let me know your thoughts. This was a learning curve for sure. And I'm glad that I have a good jump started on these Bible sleeves. And going forward, it'll now just be about perfecting the product. I already have the measurements down. I already know what's on the market. Like all that market research is done already. So now I can just perfect the sleeve and make it perfect for you guys. But like I said, they're all on the website now. There's only one of each, so feel free to grab them up. And if you don't prefer these, feel free to look at my Kindle and book sleeves as well. Those are also on my website, and I'll link them in this video as well. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hopefully it wasn't too chaotic. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see y'all in my next one. Mwah. Bye.